Iman is to believe inside is to say the word of Iman, which is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, on the tongue, and to believe it inside of the heart. To believe it inside of the heart. Janan means the heart. Now this is one of the few points in which the Aqidah Tahawiyyah is perhaps a little bit different. I guess another person wrote this book, they would write this book as what? As al-imanu iqrarun bil-lisani wa-tasdiqu bil-janani wal-amalu ala al-jawarih, and the deeds on the limbs. Imam Abu Hanifa, he didn't include good deeds as being part of a person's iman. There's a very specific reason for this, because in Kufa, during large parts of his life, there was a fitna of the Khawarij. The Khawarij were a heterodox and deviant group, and from their heterodoxy, they basically fought with the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. It was one of their members that assassinated Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. The Khawarij, from their deviancy, was the belief that a person who commits a sin becomes a kafir because of the sin. And so Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that Iman is what? Iman is saying the word of Iman on the tongue, declaring Iman on the tongue, and believing it inside the heart. And he left the a'mal out. Otherwise, there are certain hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which it says that the Iman is like the tide. It's either going out or coming in, but it's never staying the same. Meaning you have to keep doing good deeds in order for your Iman to grow. Interestingly, the Khawarij, they didn't accept the Sahaba radiallahu anhum as the canonical arbiters of the deen. In fact, they fought against them. They said, we understand the Quran better than you, we understood the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam better than you. So interestingly enough, these proofs are not admissible in argument with them. And so the Khawarij, when Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala debated with them, he said, no, Iman has nothing to do with a'mal. And the reason is what? Is that if you, for example, admit that a person's Iman decreases every time they sin, the Khawarij use that as an argument in their favor, saying that, see, a person can sin so much that it will extinguish their Iman as well. And so Abu Hanifa, being a talented debater, he turned the tables on them. He's like, what's your proof? They're like the hadith. Well, you don't. Forget about hadith. All the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ say that you're the sharrul khalaiq tahta adim as-sama, and you reject all of them. They said that you people are the worst of God's creation under the cover of the heavens, and you reject them summarily. So give us a proof from the Quran. Interestingly enough, in the Quran, right, liyazdadu imanan ma'a imanihim. See, there's a proof that Allah Ta'ala says that iman increases. So Abu Hanifa says, great, give me a proof that it decreases. It's not there. Now, obviously, through rational analogy, a person can understand if Iman increases, it can decrease as well. However, rational analogy is not something that the Khawarij were interested in. So where's the proof? Where's the proof? There's no proof. Allah Ta'ala chose the words of His book on purpose and with great deliberation. And this is the hikmah of Allah Ta'ala, that He didn't mention the decrease of Iman in His book. It's mentioned only in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, what did he say? He said that Iman is what? It's to say the word of Iman on the tongue and to believe it in the heart. And he says, let's just leave deeds out of it. And what did the other Imams say? The other Imams say that Iman is like, imagine like the mithal of Iman is like a fruit, like a peach. You know what a peach is? This is not what the Imam said, but I'm giving the example of a peach in order to explain what they said easily. A peach is like there's the fruit on the outside and then there's the pit in the middle, right? The fruit can get eaten away, but the pit is solid like a rock. It's not going anywhere. So the part of Iman, if you think of it as a murakkab, as a compound entity, part of it is like the pit, the speech of Iman saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and believing it in the heart is like the pit. And then your good deeds are like the fruit. It could grow if you take good care of the plant, and if the plant decays, it might go away, but the pit doesn't go away through your deeds. So Imam Hanifa's like, no, why don't we just call the pit Iman and then the fruit of it, we'll just call it something else so that we can shut the Khawarij up easily. It's a completely semantic difference in my opinion, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. So he says what? Al-imanu huwa al-iqraru bil-lisan wa tasdiqu bil-janan. Most of the points in the Tahawi, almost all of them are agreed upon. This is one point that maybe some of the different mashayikh may have some difference of opinion. It's good to bring your attention to it. And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And he'll discuss it a little bit more in a point or two. وإن جميع ما أنزل الله في القرآن وجميع ما صح عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في الشرع والبيان كله حق. And we believe that all of the things that Allah Ta'ala sent down in the Quran and all of those things that are authentically transmitted from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in terms of the sacred law and in terms of the explanation of it, all of it is the haqq. والإيمان واحد وأهله في أصله سواء والتفاضل بينهم بالتقوى ومخالفة الهوى وملازمة الأولى. Say what? Iman is one. It's one reality. And all of its people are all equal in it. Everyone has the same Iman. There's no Iman different one person to another. Again, this is what? This is the Abu Hanifa's formulation of Iman. Right? And so the other mashayikh of Aqidah are like, astaghfirullah, how can you say that the Iman of a drunkard and the Iman of a Nabi is the same? He says, no, it's one. The kernel of Iman is the same for everybody. Okay? And so he says that وَأَهْلُهُ فِي أَصْلِهِ سَوَاءٌ. And in its essence, all of its people are the same. And the difference between them, right? The pit is the same for everybody. Right? And the difference between them is what? It's the fruit. Someone's fruit is bigger, someone's is eroded and withered away and rotten. Right? That the Iman is one, and its people are the same in its essence, and the differences between them are what? In terms of taqwa, and we'll just call the fruit what? We won't call it Iman, we'll call it taqwa, or we'll call it God-fearingness, or mukhalafatul hawa, or we'll call it a person's ability to struggle against their own vain desires, or mulazamatul ola, or a person's ability to prioritize things in life. One person prioritizes their enjoyment over going to Jannah, right? So but that doesn't mean they don't believe. It just means that they have screwed up priorities, right? So he says that the fruit, will just give it a different name. Why? Because this is a way, and this is something that the ulama say, la niza'a fil mustalah, that there is no argument with regards to technical terminology, right? So for example, if I call this thing George instead of a cup, I say I drank from the George. Once you know what I mean by the word George, it doesn't make any difference anymore, right? The name doesn't matter, the meaning is what matters. This is actually a precept of Hanafi usul. Al-ibratu bil-ma'ani la bil-alfaz. So for example, the consideration that the judge will give in a case has to do with realities. It doesn't have to do with words. So if someone says, I give you a gift of $5 in exchange for a gift of like a coffee and a donut, then if there's a dispute about this, the judge will rule over the transaction not according to the law of gifts, but according to the law of sales. Why? Because you can call it whatever the heck you want to. It's a sale though. It's not a gift, right? So this is the same thing. This is just terminology. And the wisdom of which is that the terminology Abu Hanifa gave, which will then later on be adopted by the Maturidi school as well, because the Maturidi school is the Hanafi tradition in Aqidah. That difference is, in my opinion, it is only a difference in terminology. The reality it describes is the same. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ كُلُّهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ الرَّحْمَنِ وَأَكْرَمَهُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَطْوَاعُهُمْ وَأَتْبَعُهُمْ لِلْقُرْآنِ. And that we believe all of the believers are who? They are the awliya of the most merciful. Right? In a folk sense, what do we say that a wali of Allah is? We say that person is a saint, right? Sainthood, right? So somebody, the wali of Allah is what? Is the person who can like fly in the air and shoot light out of their fingertips and touch the sick and heal them and all this other great stuff, right? And undoubtedly, all of these things happened in our history. They actually did. I believe they did. And that's actually part of our Aqidah, to believe in general that they did. Not everyone who claims that they did this stuff is actually telling the truth. In fact, many of them are liars. Most of them are probably liars, unfortunately. But these things happened. Islam wouldn't have made it to Ajax, Ontario in 2018 if it didn't have help from Allah Ta'ala. That's what folk Islam thinks about. But what's our Aqidah? That who is the awliya of Allah? Anyone? Who? It says right here, al-mu'minun, all those who believe. All those who believe are who? The awliya of ar-Rahman. And who are the believers? He said like not too long ago. It's in your book. I'm making you into mujtahids. You don't have to make my taqleed anymore. You yourself go become a big Shaykh of Aqidah. Come on, tell me. Tell me, read in your Tahawiyyah and tell me who is the mu'minun? Yes, but that's not what I'm looking for. Yes, thank you. وَنُسَمِّي أَهْلَ قِبْلَتِنَا مُسْلِمِينَ مُؤْمِنِينَ مَا دَامُوا بِهِ, etc., right? That the Ahlul Qibla, meaning who's the believers? Everyone who meets a bare minimum definition of Islam. Even your idiot uncle who thinks that whatever, that the most important thing in Islam is like the caliphate and whatever. I mean, he may be an idiot, but he's still a believer. The caliphate's important, it's just not the most important thing in Islam. Okay? Even crazy people that you see in other places. You see somebody doesn't even know the Fatiha, but they're still a Muslim, aren't they? You won't idealize. You're not going to, nominate them for the Imam Ghazali Award for excellence in intellectual thought or whatever, right? But they're still a Muslim. They're still from the Ahlul Qibla, right? Even a person right now, you're, mashallah, so pious. Look at how pious all of you are. Mashallah. Everyone say mashallah, mashallah, right? How pious you are. Right now, there's probably 100,000 people from the Ummah are drunk or high right now. But they're still Muslims, right? All of them are the awliya of ar-Rahman. This is not me trying to, preach peace at a unity conference or we're some sort of hippie, weed smoking, spiritual type Muslims that don't care about the Sharia or whatever. This is what? This is Aqidah. This is our Aqidah. If you don't believe this, something's wrong with your Iman. You are deviant then. As long as you're still Muslim, you're still wali of Allah though. But you're deviant, you're wrong, you're misguided. That the al-mu'minuna kulluhum awliya ar-Rahman. All of them are the awliya of ar-Rahman. And this word wali, it's not something that's made up by it's not something that's made up by Tahawi. This word comes in the Quran and it comes in the Hadith as well. It's really interesting, right? People know that, Maulvi Hamzah has some association with tasawwuf or whatever, So one person who's kind of fancies himself as an anti-tasawwuf person, he says, you guys, you're too dependent on your teachers for your thinking, you should think independently. He goes, but I understand, my teachers were pious people too. I go, yeah? He goes, so-and-so was my shaykh, and he's what you guys would call a wali of Allah. I think of him as what you guys would call a wali of Allah. I'm like, what do you mean what you guys would call a wali of Allah? It's the word is used in the Quran and in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. You guys don't read the Quran and the hadith? You want to know who's a wali of Allah? There's a hadith Qudsi in the Prophet ﷺ said, narrated from Allah Ta'ala in Sahih Bukhari. In what? Bukhari. People are like, oh, these Tabligh Jamaat guys, they always use weak hadith. Okay, forget about that. We're talking about what? Bukhari now. I'm going to be branded Tabligh Jamaat, even though I've never gone on 40 days in my life. But that's what everyone's going to call me until the day I die. I've made peace with that fact. It's fine. I don't mind. Okay? So what is it? What did Rasulullah ﷺ said? He said that Allah Ta'ala said, "Man aada li waliyan, faqad adhantuhu bil harb." Whoever makes an enemy of a wali of mine, I declare war on that person. This is the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is one of my finest moments as a teacher. I wasn't teaching anything hyper intellectual or whatever. I was teaching maktab kids. You know maktab? Teach alif, ba, ta, tha, the kids after school and things like that. I was teaching maktab, and there was a young boy. I told him, I said, did you know that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, they all used to say that the blood of any believer, even the worst of the believers, is more holy with Allah Ta'ala than the Kaaba itself. The kid's like, no. I'm like, no, it's true. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar said it, and it's muttasil to the Prophet ﷺ in certain narrations. No. Really? No. And so what happened? He went home. He went to his father. His father's like a oncologist, a cancer doctor. And so he goes to his father, and then his father the next day comes to me, he goes, my son came to me, and he goes, Shaykh said that even the least of the believers is more sacred to Allah Ta'ala than the Kaaba itself. Is it true? And then his father came to me, his father said, he told me, he goes, hey, I told him, I said, hey, if Shaykh said it, it must be true. And he was so happy. He said that I don't even know. I was like lazy. Like I didn't even know why I signed the kid up for maktab. I thought, yeah, Quran, what the heck, it couldn't hurt, right? Like I was just really ambiguous about it. Just somehow I did it. He goes, I was so happy you taught him this thing. He goes, I feel like if this is the only thing he learns from maktab, this is like the whole thing would be worth it. This is an understanding of the deen. It's completely gone from people. Muslims treat each other so badly. They treat each other like garbage. I promise you, if like so the honorable John Jane MP, whatever came into the masjid, everyone would be like slobbering all over them and be like, yeah, Islam means peace and whatever, but which is fine. It's good to be nice to guests and things like that. I don't mind. I mean, I don't have any antagonism toward people, but why is it that when somebody else comes, everyone's like, they go into like jellyfish mode, and then when it's another Muslim, like people like meet each other like they're like from rival prison gangs or whatever, Dude, I mean, even if you don't like the person, even the person's a sinner, you don't like the person, like personally, right? But that person carries La ilaha illallah in their heart. Let me tell you something. Allah Ta'ala gives money to people He hates. He gives power to people He hates. He even gives beauty to people He hates. There are some people, they're beautiful. You look at them and it's mesmerizing. But Allah may give that to a person that He hates. But one thing He doesn't give to anyone He hates is what? Is La ilaha illallah. He only gives that to the people He loves. And He warns the Muslims on the tongue of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that whoever messes with that wali of mine, I declare war on that person. Now tell me, who here is going to win a war with Allah? Who here thinks it's a good idea even to try? It's dumb, it's stupid. The Salaf had this common sense. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu used to have this common sense. And he used to regard a person who was a Muslim as having so much value. One of the first things he asked was when he was stabbed, when he was assassinated and dying, who stabbed me? They told him it was Abu Lu'lu, the Magian, the Zoroastrian slave of Mughirah ibn Shu'bah. He said, Alhamdulillah, that no believer had a grudge against me so badly that he would do something like this. Why? Because they were concerned. They used to value other Muslims. Right? Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, when he heard someone left Islam, it would pain him so much. I mean, we're so like out of time right now. There's stories to tell about this. This is one thing I'll tell you. Tabligh, Jamaat Tabligh, people have issues with them. Some of them are very legitimate. Some of them are completely not. One of the issues that people have with them that's not legitimate, they're like, how come you waste my time coming and telling me about Islam? Why don't you go make da'wah to a non-Muslim? I'm already Muslim. Don't you know that? Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he said that one person who strays from Islam, to bring him back to Islam, to me is more valuable than bringing 40 new people into the deen. Why? Because the haqq of a Muslim is much greater. It used to bother him if somebody left Islam or someone would feel hurt, and he would go to great lengths in order to bring them back in. Go read the story of Jabla, the king of Ghassan, who apostated. What did Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu do? That man apostated. There's a long story. It's a really interesting story too. Like, I'm not skipping over it because it's not important, but we just don't have time. People will only give me these number of hours for Aqidah. This is a book we should spend more time reading. There's so much there. So the summary is what? Is that he not only left Islam, literally from the Haram Sharif, he stormed off. And he went to the Byzantine Roman emperor. He was a Christian before he became Muslim. He stormed off him, became a Christian again, and lived there. And the Roman emperor was shabashed him so much that he gave him a big stipend. He used to live in a palace that was so big that it rivaled the palace of the emperor himself. And so once one of Sayyidina Umar's ambassadors was on official business in Constantinople, and so the emperor asked him, he says, don't you ever wonder what happened to your guys' friend, Jabla, the king of Ghassan? He's like, yeah, I guess. He goes, here, go to such and such place, you can go meet him. So he describes there's a palace that's like as big as the emperor's palace himself. It's a really long and very interesting and important story to tell. We don't have time for it. But the summary is what? After playing games with the ambassador, Jabla cuts down to business. He goes, don't you want me to come back and become Muslim again? He's like, of course that's what we want. So he says, tell Umar that these are my conditions. He goes, what? He goes that he marry his daughter to me. He goes, okay, I'll put that condition forth. He goes, and that he makes a wasiyah that I become Khalifa after him. And so this ambassador is like, okay, buddy, that's enough. We gotta, I gotta go now, And so that Jabla, he said, okay, well, here's some gifts. I want you to give them to Hassan bin Thabit, the poet of the Prophet ﷺ, because he used to admire his ash'ar, his poetry. He said, these camels, go give it to him as a gift. And if you come back to Medina, because Hassan bin Thabit was very old. He said that, radiallahu anhu, he said, if you go back to Medina and he's passed away, then slaughter the camels at his grave and distribute the meat to the poor. So he says, okay. So he goes back, takes the camels back. He tells Sayyidina Umar this story. And he tells Sayyidina Umar that like he tried to stipulate conditions. He goes, what did he ask? He says that Umar marry his daughter to me. He goes, okay, what else? He says that Umar make me write that I'm Khalifa after he passes. And so I told him, I'm like, yeah, buddy, it's not going to happen. Sayyidina Umar got upset with him. He said, why did you say that? He said, why didn't you just tell him that I'll ask him to agree? He said, if you didn't done that, I would have agreed to it and Allah Ta'ala would have taken care of the outcome. So why didn't you agree to that? And what happened, Hassan bin Thabit was with him at that time. He was so old, he was blind by that time. He lost his eyesight, so he started to cry when he heard, because both their hopes were up that this guy is going to accept the deen again. And he started to weep, and he made the comment, he says, I wish that I didn't hear this khabar, we didn't hear this news, and you just slaughtered the camels at my grave. This is how much they used to care for one another. Now it's just like you see another Muslim, you see pictures of people from Muslim countries, and you think of them like animals or whatever, and you treat them badly, and people say the dumbest things. People say I'm sorry, the haqq has to be spoken. They say the dumbest things. People say, oh, in our country we have Islam, in our country we have Muslim, in this country we have Islam. It's like, okay, why do you say that? Because people here stand in line. There's no garbage in the street. Look, okay, Yawm al-Qiyamah, who's going to go to Jannah? The person whose street was clean? No. Who's going to go to Jannah? The person who stand in, I'm a big fan of clean streets. Pick up after yourself. Pick up garbage. In fact, pick up after other people. If you see litter, pick it up and throw it in the garbage. This is part of Iman as well. I'm a big fan of standing in line and orderly behavior. But Allah Ta'ala didn't send the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to teach people how to clean the street. You could have figured that out on your own. He didn't send his Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in order to teach people how to stand in line. You figured that all out on your own. That person who doesn't know how to stand in line, and that person who's like, you look at him and you think that they're nothing, that person carries La ilaha illallah in their heart. How dare you say that this person doesn't have Islam? And how dare you look at a person whose heart is dead, filled with the blackness of kufr, and say that because they can stand in line and their street looks beautiful, that this person somehow has Islam? You don't know what Islam is if that's what you really think. So these are the things in Aqidah. I wish people read them. This is our Aqidah. If a person looks at a kafir with more admiration than what they look at a Muslim, they have Aqidah problem. And it has nothing to do with saying that Fulan group is kuffar and Fulan group is bid'ah. Far from sectarianism, Aqidah is what will bring the ummah together when the people understand what Islam is properly. This is a part of our Aqidah. By the way, right, some of you guys, who here is an MSA? Anyone? Right? MSA, right? MSA, like you guys do your own Jummahs on campus, and you probably have the most ludicrous and ridiculous of khutbahs. The 11:30 part's on its own, but the fact that the khutbah is bakwas, that khutbah could be bakwas at 12:30 or 1:30 as well, and it would be just as bad. Okay? This is solid stuff. We should talk about this stuff to people. Instead of giving a khutbah about like whatever, Black Panther or some, whatever, or White Panther for that matter, Anyone see Black Panther? Don't raise your hand. Killmonger was totally the hero of that movie. But at any rate, not that anyone's seen it because movies are haram, but you know what I mean. This is the stuff, instead of talking about nonsense with people, this is the deen of Allah Ta'ala. This is what people should share with one another. This is what people should talk about. People talk about the most inane and ridiculous things, some of which are wrong and some of which are right, but that's not what the qawm needs to hear on the occasion of Jum'ah. That's not what brings people together. That's what separates people. The Aqidah is what brings people together. And the sick part is that some people have abused it and used it to drive people apart. which is it's like, you know, like taking giving someone has a headache, so you're like, here, why don't you take like 70 Tylenols and you kill them? Like it doesn't mean that Tylenol is poison. It's just you used it like an idiot. That's what it means. I mean, not you guys, of course you wouldn't do that, but you know what I mean. والإيمان هو الإيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والبعث بعد الموت والقدر خيره وشره حلوه ومره من الله تعالى. This is like the highlights reel of Iman, right? The post-game ESPN highlights reel. That Iman is to believe in Allah and His angels and His revealed books and His prophets and the day of judgment and the physical resurrection after death and the predestination that it comes from Allah Ta'ala, the good and evil, meaning the sweet part and the bitter part, the part of Allah's qadr that makes you happy and the part that's hard to swallow. And so, you know, so anyone here, any of our India, Pakistan public here, you know, you ever heard Iman Mujmal, Iman Mufassal before? Yeah? So what happens is that, like, you know, people, they see people mention this to the Arabs, and they're like, you know, Iman Mujmal, Iman Mufassal, and the Arabs are like, shoo? Like, they're like, what are you talking about? And then they're like, oh, our Maulvis are so stupid, they just made it up. You know, made me look stupid in front of like whatever, Rami and Shadi and whatever, right? So that's not it, right? The Iman Mujmal, Iman Mufassal, Mufti Kifayatullah, he developed the syllabus for school kids for what they should learn about Aqidah, amongst other things. And so the Iman Mufassal is this. It's actually taken from the Tahawiyyah. Yeah. So in case someone's wondering, your Maulvis didn't make it up. This is actually part of the tradition, mashallah. Mufti Kifayatullah was a great scholar. This is where he took it from. وَنَحْنُ مُؤْمِنُونَ بِذَلِكَ كُلِّهِ وَلَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّن رُسُلِهِ وَنُصَدِّقُهُم كُلَّهُم عَلَى مَا جَاءُوا بِهِ. We believe in all of those things, and we don't differentiate between any of Allah's prophets, and we say that all of them came with truth. We don't differentiate between the prophets means that we say all of them are from Allah and all of them came with the truth, and we honor all of them. It doesn't mean that they all have the same station. And it's interesting too, because same thing, interfaith, right? Some uncle will get up and say, you know, all prophets are all equal. Why? Because they think that it's going to make Christians and Jews happy, and they really don't care. Even if it did make him happy, you're supposed to do your deen for Allah, not for mukhlisina lahuddin, for Allah Ta'ala, not for other people. But the funny part, on the cherry on top of the thing, on top of the cake, is that they really could care less. So, and then some of them, when you try to say, well, we don't actually believe that, they try to get lippy back to you, and they're like, oh, doesn't Allah Ta'ala say in the Quran, لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّن رُسُلِهِ, we don't differentiate between any of His prophets. The reason for revealing that was like that the Bani Israel used to, they say, we like Harun alayhi salam, we don't like Musa. He was harsh with us, Harun was always kind to us. It's really weird, right? Out of all the places, holy and sacred places in Palestine, right? Which one would you think that the Jews would venerate the most? Out of the graves of all the prophets, which one would you think that the Jews venerate the most? Musa alayhi salam. The Mazar of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam is like neglected. It's like basically run by a very questionable Muslim family, who says that no Jews ever come to visit. There was one, Mullah Junaid Kharsani, I told you about him, from South Africa. He said, I went on Jamaat in Israel. Right? Meaning not the occupied territories, but the actual, like, you know, where they he said, I went on Jamaat, I did 40 days in Israel. And so he said that the Amir Sahib sent us to the Mazar of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. They said, the Jews don't ever visit. They don't ever visit. The Mazar of Sayyidina Yusuf, they tried to take it over. The Mazar of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, they tried to take it over. They made a power sharing arrangement. They actually have services there and things like that. The Mazar of Sayyidina Musa, they don't even visit it. Right? That's what La nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusuli. I actually asked a rabbi about this. He goes, we believe that the Torah is God's curse on us, that all the laws in the Torah are Allah punishing our forefathers for disobeying Him. So He made all these really strict and difficult laws for us to follow that He knew we couldn't follow. Which is, you know, Allah Ta'ala says, Ana inda dhanni abdi bi. It's a hadith Qudsi also in Bukhari that Allah Ta'ala says that I am as my slave thinks of me. So if that's what you think about Allah Ta'ala, that's what you'll get. We don't say that. We say, قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا. قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين قل بفضل الله وبرحمته فبذلك فليفرحوا هو خير مما يجمعون. Indeed has come to you a righteous exhortation and a cure for what's inside the hearts, and guidance and mercy for the believers. Say, because of the grace of Allah and because of His mercy, let them rejoice because of that. It's better than what they gather. So we have a whole Ramadan, we have Taraweeh, we have Laylatul Qadr, the 27th. Allah knows best which night it is, but because the Muslims think it's 27th, that's like the one night that everybody comes to the Masjid and people give out sweets, and it's a happy occasion, and then the Eid is right on the heels of it, right? Why? We don't believe that the Quran is a curse of Allah Ta'ala. Far from it. The Quran is the source of every good that we have in this world. And but they considered the Torah to be the punishment on them. This is what it means, لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّن رُسُلِهِ. You don't have the right that Allah sends somebody and you say, I like this one, I don't like that one. We love all of them because they came from the same Allah Ta'ala and they have the same authority. That's what it means. So, but Uncle Gio, it says, لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّن رُسُلِهِ. In the exact same juz, تِلْكَ الرُّسُلُ فَضَّلْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. These are the messengers, we've favored certain ones of them over others. Which means our explanation is correct because the two explanations fit together. Whereas your explanation is wrong because it would require some part of the Quran contradicting the other part. وأهل الكبائر من أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في النار لا يخلدون إذا ماتوا وهم موحدون وإن كانوا تائبين بعد أن لقوا الله عارفين مؤمنين وهم في مشيئته وحكمه إن شاء غفر لهم وعفى عنهم بفضله كما ذكر عز وجل في كتابه العزيز إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء وإن شاء عذبهم في النار بعدله ثم يخرجوهم منها برحمته وشفاعة الشافعين من أهل طاعته ثم يبعثهم إلى الجنة. The sinners of the Ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when they die, the ones that will go to the hellfire, they won't be there forever. Some of them will go to the hellfire, but even the ones that go to the hellfire, they won't be there forever. Even if they didn't repent from their sins. As long as they met Allah Ta'ala knowing that He's one and believing in Him. At that point they are subject to the desire of Allah and to the commandment of Allah. If He wishes to, He can forgive them and let them go. By His fadl, by His grace. Like Allah Ta'ala mentions, mighty and majestic is He in His mighty book. Indeed Allah Ta'ala does not forgive that one should associate partners with Him. And He forgives anything less than that for whoever He wills. By the way, this Allah Ta'ala not forgiving shirk, it doesn't mean like if a Hindu comes to the masjid and says, I want to become Muslim, you say, you committed shirk, Allah won't forgive you. This means the one who dies on shirk. This is actually a question. Amr bin As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he came to Medina and he wanted to accept Islam, but he actually had this question. He says that the Quran says Allah won't forgive me because I worship, it says that Allah won't forgive people who made shirk. I've been doing shirk my whole life. What am I supposed to do now? Rasulullah says that refers to the one who dies on that. Allah won't forgive the one who dies on it. If you're still alive, you can, even He'll forgive that as well as if you accept the deen. So Allah Ta'ala could forgive a person even if they didn't make tawbah. If He wishes to, though He will torment them and torture them and punish them for their sins in the fire because of His justice, then thereafter, when that finite punishment is done, He will take them out of the fire by His mercy and by the shafa'ah, the intercession of those who intercede from the people of piety, and then He will dispatch that person to Jannah. And so this is important, right? This is one of the things. This is one of the reasons. Like when it comes to dunya, the sunnah is to prefer other people over yourself. If you have money, give to somebody else. If you're hungry, it's better to feed a person than it's better to prefer other people over yourself. Your basic needs, you fulfill your own basic needs, like most basic of needs, then afterward it's better to prefer others over yourself. With regards to dunya. With regards to the deen, it's superior to prefer yourself over others. So for example, if a space opens up in the masjid in the first row, don't offer it to the person next to you, go forward yourself. Why? Because the one who makes it to Jannah first, that person will help his brother, help his sister through his shafa'ah. And if you don't make it, then you can't help anybody from the hellfire. You understand what I'm saying? It's like kind of like the mask in the airplane, the oxygen mask. They say put your own on first, because if you pass out, you're not going to be able to help yourself or the next person. If they pass out, you can put the gas mask on them and they'll come back. If you pass out, you ain't helping nobody. So that's how it is for the matters of deen, that you should prefer yourself over other people. Because once you make it to Jannah, then whoever from the people of Iman who didn't make it, Allah will give you the haqq to ask that they be brought out. And so like that, the shafa'ah will be given first to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then to the rest of the prophets, then to the rest of Allah Ta'ala's awliya in order of their piety and righteousness. And then the people from Jahannam who made it out, then they'll be allowed to make shafa'ah for their buddies who were left behind, etc., etc. It comes in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that a point will come where everybody will think that everybody who had any sort of iman at all, ever, will have been pulled out of the hellfire. They cannot imagine that the people who are left behind are so disgusting. They can't imagine that those people ever had any iman whatsoever. Then Allah Ta'ala will make an announcement in the hellfire that whoever had even the most slight and subtle amount of iman in their heart, now come forth from the hellfire by my mercy. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, a multitude of people, huge amount of people will come forth from the hellfire. And everyone who is in a different hadith, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whoever comes from the hellfire, that person will be so like broken from the torment of the fire, they'll be like comatose. Like they won't, if they were put in that state in Jannah, they wouldn't be able to enjoy because they're so traumatized. So there's a river in Jannah called the Nahrul Haya, the Nahrul Haya, the river of life, Nahrul Hayat, the river of life. And those charred and frazzled and completely just completely like out of it people, the water of that river will cleanse them from the traumatizing effect of the hellfire, and they'll become people again. And then they can go and enjoy Jannah. Otherwise they would just stand like completely blank, like an inanimate object. They wouldn't be able to enjoy anything ever again. And so like just a legion of people like this, when Allah Ta'ala says, come from my mercy, a legion of people like this will exit from the hellfire. Such people that nobody would have ever in their wildest dreams imagined this person has any iman whatsoever. What does this teach us? You know, there's a lot of Muslims that are like, I don't know if I can believe in Islam anymore. Why? Because, Jimmy, my neighbor, is such a nice guy, and, he's just always so helpful, and he has such good akhlaq, and he takes care, he feeds like stray dogs, and, he's just a really great person, and I don't know if I could believe in a religion that's going to send Jimmy to hell. I said, why, what point number 17 of Aqidah Tahawiyyah is like that Jimmy's going to the hellfire? How do you know Jimmy's going to the hellfire? Our Aqidah is what? Person of Iman goes to Jannah, person of Kufr goes to the hellfire. Our sacred law has a standard for what Iman is. And we're obliged to judge according to that standard because of worldly issues. Because we have to decide who gets a janazah, who doesn't get a janazah, who's buried in the Muslim graveyard, who's not buried in the Muslim graveyard, who can you legally marry, who can you not legally marry, whose slaughter can you eat, whose slaughter can you not eat. These are legal issues. And the Sharia gives us a legal standard with regards to judge that. So if someone's like, it's like, no, you cannot say that the Christians are kafirs. Well, actually, by legal standard, they are. I'm sorry if that harms anyone's ego or self-esteem, but that's very objective truth. But that has to do with the legal hukum in this world. That means that, Jimmy is not going to get a janazah. Jimmy is not going to get a ghusl and kafan. He's not going to get buried in the whatever Al-Madinah cemetery. Jimmy is not going to, we're not going to make dua for him in Masjid Quba, that Friday. Because legally he's not a Muslim. That's the limit of what Allah Ta'ala expects us to treat with regards to his iman. Otherwise, unless like Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, Quran says they're going to hell, we believe they're going to hell as a matter of iman. The prophets, the Asharun Mubashirin bil Jannah, the Azwaj Mutahharat, etc., the Quran says they're going to Jannah, we believe they're going to Jannah. Okay? Everybody else that's not mentioned, the ones who are good, we have good hope that they'll go to Jannah, inshallah. And the ones who died on Islam but didn't practice it very well, legally died as Muslims, we make dua for them. The ones who legally didn't die as Muslims, we're not allowed to make dua for them. But whatever the reality in their heart was, they will come face to face with it in front of Allah Ta'ala. And so this hadith indicates that there are some people you would have thought there is no way in heck these people are Muslims. But lo and behold, Allah Ta'ala takes them out of the hellfire and the entire creation is like, how did that happen? So don't worry. If there's some good in Jimmy, Allah Ta'ala will take care of Jimmy. And if Allah leaves them in the hellfire forever, this means literally there's no good in them. And the idea that a person can have inside their head that that Allah would not have mercy on someone and I would, this is itself is a very problematic belief about Allah. That your mercy is greater than Allah's mercy. That just means you don't know anything about Allah. And possibly about yourself either. So don't worry about it. So these two different things, right? What Allah's judgment will be, that's a secret between Allah Ta'ala and His creation. He will reveal that secret on the Day of Judgment, and He's made it haram for you to comment about. And the legal ruling is there's a very objective standard. So some people are like, well, you don't know, maybe they'll be Muslim on the Day of Judgment. That way you can't, for that reason you can't call anyone a kafir in this world. No, you can. Don't throw the sharia in the garbage can just because you heard a bayan one time. And then on the flip side, everyone's going to hell. Everyone's going to hell. These people are deviants and they're going to hell, and these people are sinners, they're going to hell. Let everyone just go to hell, right? That's also wrong. That's not what the Aqidah of our forefathers was. It's not what the Quran teaches, and it's not what the Hadith teaches either. It's not the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ teaches. So there are going to be people who will come, more than the shafa'ah of people for one another, more than that, the people who Allah Ta'ala calls out from the hellfire from His mercy is going to outnumber all of the above. It's going to outnumber all of the above. This is important insight that our Aqidah gives us, especially also with regards to da'wah. Because I know a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to tell so-and-so about Islam because if they get the message and reject it, they'll go to hell. And how do you know they're going to go to hell? Imagine if it's possible for somebody whose for their iman to be so subtle, that that nobody would even be able to guess that this person is a Muslim. Meaning that means that what? They didn't come to the masjid and say La ilaha illallah and everyone gave him a hug and then pretended to love them and then not call him again for the next 6 months. That didn't happen. Nobody even knew. Some secret switched in their heart. That means you should tell people about the deen. There's so many beautiful things about the deen. So many beautiful things about the Prophet ﷺ. So many beautiful things about Allah, about the Quran, about Islam, go share it with people. Why? Because you don't know which thing, it may be so subtle it comes into a person's heart, but that thing will save them one day. And, we're not like Christians, I'm going to save the world. You're not going to save anything unless Allah Ta'ala saves, right? That's, by the way, that's what the name Isaiah, Yashayahu, of which Isa is actually a derivative form. That's actually what the name means. It means what? Yahu saves. That Allah Ta'ala is the one who saves. The salvation comes from Allah, right? That's actually what the name Jesus means, like in the original Hebrew. Alayhi salatu wassalam, alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah Ta'ala is the one who saves. But what's in it for you and me? So, I'm going to be in Jannah. I could care less if Jimmy makes it to Jannah. Who cares? It's not my problem. I'm going to be drinking chai in Jannah. Who cares what's happening to Jimmy? What's in it for me? Anyone? What's in it for you? What's in it for you? If Jimmy makes it to Jannah, then everything that he has in his maqam, you automatically get that it's going to increase and exalt your maqam as well. Imagine that. That's good. It's in your interest. Go ahead and share the deen with people. Don't be like the dude who's like, yeah, my name is Mo, and then 15 years later you're like, I fast in the month of Ramadan. No, just you don't have to preach the hell out of people to the point where you annoy them. But you can tell them about the deen when the opportunity presents itself properly. Simple things, beautiful things that will make them love the deen. Don't start with cutting off hands and lashing fornicators or whatever, right? Jimmy probably likes fornication at this point. One day, through his love of Allah, he'll leave it, inshallah. But don't start with that. Start with the easy stuff first. So that the iman enters into the heart. A zani will go to Jannah eventually, but a kafir will never go. See that? You guys all thought I'm going to be all fundamentalist hardcore and just send everyone to hell, didn't you? Mawlvi Sahib, you were like looking forward to it. You're like, when is he going to get to the hell part? I'm sorry to disappoint you, man. What can you do? Allah Ta'ala's mercy outstrips His wrath. What can you do? If you're angry about it, what are you going to do? Who are you going to fight with somebody? What are you going to do about it? That's the deen. I can't, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to disappoint you. وذلك بأن الله تعالى تولى أهل معرفته ولم يجعلهم في الدارين كأهل نكرته الذين خابوا من هدايته ولم ينالوا من ولايته اللهم يا ولي الإسلام وأهله مسكنا بالإسلام حتى نلقاك به. Why is this true? Someone asked a question like, why is it that like two people, right? There's like Jimmy and Khalid, they both like, they're best friends, they grow up, go to the same school, get the same job, same education, same degree, like they marry two twin sisters, they they do everything exactly the same except for like, one's a Muslim, the other's not a Muslim. Why is it that one of them is going to go to the hellfire forever and the other one is not? How is that fair, right? There's a number of explanations for this issue, but the point that Tahawi is trying to make is like, look, we don't really honor Allah Ta'ala and respect Him as we should. What do I mean by that? Allah Ta'ala is, Sayyidina Imam Tahawi rahimahullah Ta'ala is saying about Allah, he said that the reason that that's the case is what? Is because Allah Most High, He made friends with the people who wanted to know Him. Ma'rifah, the one whose heart was connected with Allah, that the heart said that this is Allah and He's only one, there's no partner unto Him. Allah Ta'ala makes friends with that person. And He will never treat His friend, neither in this world nor in the next world, like those people who didn't want anything to do with Him and that didn't take His wisdom or take His guidance. You understand what I'm saying? In terms of your practice, you and I may be a wreck. But if Allah is your friend, you made a very powerful friend. His friendship will come in handy one day. You understand what I mean? It will benefit you one day. Your friends in the dunya, Jimmy, there's a day that will come that they'll hit, swipe no when you call them, when you need them. Right? They'll not respond to your text messages or for whatever reason. That day will come, and any friend that you have in this world will do that to you. They know you have to move, so they're not going to pick up the phone because they don't want to lift boxes or whatever. And then the next week when it's your birthday party, then they'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I was sick last week. That's how people like you and me are. Allah is not like that. Whoever makes friends with Allah Ta'ala, that person is a powerful friend. Allah Ta'ala will not let you down in this world or the hereafter. So don't tell me about what's fair, what's not fair. You made friends with Allah Ta'ala, He's going to hook you up. And if you didn't want to make friends with Allah Ta'ala, then go ask your other friends for help. That bad's on a person, that's not on Allah. And so then after Tahawi, he says, this is a very beautiful point. So he inserts in it a dua. He says, "O Allah, O friend of Islam and friend of its people, make us hold tight to Islam until we meet you in it." And so Ameen. And so he says, "Hatta nalqaka bihi." He says, until we meet you with it, which is the we form, meaning what? Everybody who reads this is included in the dua. From the time of Tahawi through the millions of people who read this book throughout every century, this book is transmitted through the awliya of Allah Ta'ala in an unbroken chain. There's actually, when I teach this in the madrasa, I give a ijazah for it, and it actually has the names of all the people who transmit the book. All of them are Ameen. Allah accepts from one. We hope that He accepts from all of us. So all of you also say Ameen. ونرى الصلاة خلف كل بر وفاجر من أهل القبلة ونصلي على من مات منهم. We consider the salat to be valid behind every pious person and every profligate. And we pray the janazah of every one of them when they die. So this is the aqidah is what? Is that the prayer is valid behind everybody as long as they're Ahlul Qibla, and everyone gets a janazah as long as they're Ahlul Qibla. The modality and the details of how that's supposed to happen, the fuqaha have a little bit of a difference of agreement, but that much is a part of our aqidah that's true, and that much is agreed upon even by the fuqaha. Now Imam Malik, he considered it haram to pray behind an open sinner, but he didn't consider it invalid. Do you understand the difference? So somebody, someone's like, has a beer every day after Isha and sits on the patio at the bar and does it. Don't pray behind him. But if you prayed behind him, it's valid. Whereas Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, they said what? they said that the prayer behind those people is also permissible, and they quote the hadith, Sallu khalfa kulli barrin wa fajir, pray behind every person, whether they're pious or whether they're a sinner. And Abu Hanifa and Malik said that this hadith indicates that it's valid. It doesn't indicate that it's permissible. You understand the difference between them? Between valid and permissible? One is it's a bad thing to do, but if you do it, you don't have to make your prayer up. The other is like, no, you can do it, and there's no sin in it. So that part is, there's a difference of opinion, but they all agree that the prayer is valid. The second thing with regards to the janazah is that the person who is open sinner, that person, their janazah doesn't happen the same way the janazah of the pious people happens. Someone is a good person, they tried their best, maybe they sinned, but they at least tried to hide it from the people. That person, their janazah is the normal janazah. It happens in public. The imams, ulama, everybody, pious people, everyone comes. There's a reward. As many people as come, the better. And there's a reward to go and accompany the body to the graveyard until it's buried. That's for the normal people. A person who sinned openly, right? And included in this, because people always ask the question: is people who commit suicide get a janazah as well? Suicide is a sin. It's not kufr. All of the sins, if a person did them, even if they did them openly, the person who did the sins openly, their janazah happens slightly differently. The way their janazah happens is that the imam of the masjid and the ulama, they don't lead the janazah, rather they appoint just some regular average person from the jamaat, from the congregation, and they say, you take 2 or 3 people aside, and when everyone's gone, then you pray their janazah, and then you guys just go and make sure that the body gets buried properly. What is the reason for that? Is it because Allah Ta'ala wants to get a little cheap shot in on the person before they go into the ground because they're a sinner? No. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's not the case. Why is it? It's a mercy. There's a mercy in it. What's the mercy? Man, someone killed themselves. Okay? And that's sad. When a person kills themselves, nobody's like, hey, I'm having a great day. I wonder what suicide's like. People have problems, kids get bullied in school, people have self-esteem issues, people have all these issues, right? And it gets too much and it overwhelms them and they take their own life. It's sad. You don't want to be mean to such a person. It's the meanness that caused that to happen in the first place. But the hikmah of the sharia is what? Imagine somebody killed themselves and then the janazah is there and Maulana Nabil is here and Mufti so-and-so is here and Mufti the other one is here, Maulana Shakir Pandor comes, everybody shows up and the ulama are there and the awliya are there and the hufaz of Quran are there, everybody's there and they're all, the imam is making dua for the deceased and everyone's saying ameen and whatever. So the next guy who's life is too much for them and they're thinking of killing themselves, what are they going to say to themselves? They're going to say, oh look, mashallah, there's like some pious dudes up in here, some pious sisters up in here, and they're all saying ameen and stuff like that, and there's no way Allah's going to not forgive this person. So, I know it's haram, but I may as well too, because they're all going to just make dua for me as well. And then that person will kill themselves too. And that's bad. You shouldn't do that. You should struggle, you should live. You should go on. There's a mercy in it, because as long as there's a stigma in suicide, then the person will continue on and live. As long as there's a stigma in sin, a person will keep struggling to try to give it up. There's a mercy in that. That struggle itself is why Allah will forgive you. That struggle itself is why you become a wali of Allah. Nobody's born I like reading namaz, man. I like reading namaz. I'm going to read 17 juz every day just because, that's what I like doing. Nobody's born like that. It's a struggle that makes you into a great person. So this helps you to stay on the path of struggling in the path of Allah Ta'ala. Even if you struggle and you fail at the end, the struggle itself is what will save you. If you don't struggle in the first place, then you're in a bad position. I'm putting it very mildly because we're in the masjid. Then you're in a bad position. And so even that is a mercy. So what is it? No cheap shot on the way out. In fact, all the ulama will still make dua for you. They'll just do it at home separately. All the pious people, the zakireen and people, you guys all came to al-Tahawi, you guys are like the awliya of the qawm, mashallah, you guys will make dua for them, but you'll just do it at home in a way that doesn't encourage the next person to jump or whatever. That's what it is. It's just a matter of understanding. It's relatively simple. ولا ننزل أحدا منهم جنة ولا نارا ولا نشهد عليهم بكفر ولا بشرك ولا بنفاق ما لم يظهر منهم شيء من ذلك ونظر سرائرهم إلى الله تعالى We do not, when one of them dies, when one of the Ahlul Qibla dies, we don't say, oh, this guy's going to Jannah for sure, son, or this guy's going to hell for sure. Nor do we bear witness that this person was a kafir or a mushrik or a munafiq. مَا لَمْ يَظْهَرْ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٌ مِنْ ذَلِكَ, as long as there's no apparent proof of that, right? So someone died, they weren't particularly pious, and then someone's like, oh man, this guy was a total munafiq. So astaghfirullah, why did you say that? Oh, it's because this Facebook post like 90 seconds before he died says, ha ha ha, suckers, I was just faking and I'm not really a Muslim. Okay, then maybe he was a munafiq, But short of something like that, it's haram to say that so and so, even if no matter how disgusting of a person they seem to you, as long as there's a doubt, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. وَنَذَرُوا سَرَائِرَهُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ. We vouchsafe their secret to Allah. Whatever their secret is, يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ is يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرِ. Right? It's Juz Amma, all of you know it, right? You can quote Quran and Bayan and stuff, right? MashaAllah. MSA, you impress all the MSA people, man. They're like, yo man, you some kind of sheikh? Right? يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرِ. Sara'ir, the word sara'ir is the plural of what word? What's the singular of sara'ir? Sisters, anyone? Sarira. You guys don't listen to the nasheeds. قَمَرٌ طَابَتْ سَرِيرَتُهُ وَسَجَايَهُ وَسِيرَتُهُ صَفْوَةُ الْبَارِ وَخِيرَتُهُ. You don't, anyway, khair. So it's the jama' of sarira, which means the innermost secret of the person, right? One of the meanings of the word sir is the heart. Sir also means heart. So when the ulama write about so-and-so person, qaddasallahu sirrahu, and the translators translate it, may Allah sanctify their secret, and it sounds all like mystical, like, ooh, like, no. Sir is what? Is the heart. Qaddasallahu sirrahu, may Allah ta'ala remove any blemish from their heart. Why? Because the Yawm al-Qiyamah is يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. It's the day that no one will be benefited except for the one who comes with a heart free of blemish, right? So that secret that's inside of them, we vouchsafe it to Allah. Yawm al-Qiyamah, if they were a total munafiq, like they actually were a total munafiq, they just were like, ice skating on taking the benefit of the doubt, they won't make a fool of Allah. Allah will out them in front of everybody that day. And if it turns out that they were struggling, they had issues, but they were struggling and they actually did have iman in their heart, Allah Ta'ala will also show that to the people. That's Allah's job, to show what's inside the heart. That's His job. Let Him do it. He does it better than you and me. So just leave it alone. وَلَا نَرَى السَّيْفَ عَلَى أَحَدٍ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي مُحَمَّدٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم إِلَّا مَنْ وَجَبَ عَلَيْهِ السَّيْفُ ولا نرى الخروج على أئمتنا من ولاة أمورنا وإن جاروا ولا ندعو على أحد منهم ولا ننزع يدا من طاعتهم ونرى طاعتهم من طاعة الله عز وجل فريضة ما لم يأمروا بمعصية وندعو لهم بالصلاح والنجاح والمعافى. So we don't consider the word safe here. Safe actually literally means sword. That's not what it means. Here, safe is a metaphor for any type of violence or coercion. We don't consider violence to be permissible against anyone from the Ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, except for those few legally sanctioned exceptions. What are they? Someone's trying to steal your things from you, you have the right to fight back. Someone's trying to harm your family, you have the right to fight back. If somebody if somebody, for example, within the Muslim, sovereign Muslim polity, right? You can't say Islamic State anymore because some whack jobs in Iraq and Syria kind of screwed that up for all of us for a while at least. So just say like sovereign Muslim government, right? If there is a sovereign Muslim government of like non-whack jobs, if a person committed zina openly in such a situation, they would be lashed, right? That's an act of violence, but that's an exception. Someone stole something and they got caught, and their hand gets amputated. That's an exception, right? What time is Asr? 3:15. Okay, we'll do this point and then or maybe 5 more minutes and then we'll break. We have so little time. We have to finish the book, right? If we have to stay over for like half an hour or something like that, is that okay? If you have to go, then what's your name, bhai? Huh? Samir? Yeah, Samir will email you the link for the video or whatever, okay? But the idea is what? Is that those are exceptions, right? The rule is what? You cannot harm another Muslim. And we don't take these things seriously. Like siblings will hit each other or whatever, or people will like mess with other people. In the Sharia, according to our sacred law, the threat of violence or even making a person afraid of violence, these all count as violence. Like if you cock your fist back like you're going to hit somebody, that's actually also an act of violence. A person could go to hell for that. You should make tawbah for things like that. It's not a small matter. So we consider it as a point of Aqidah that it's haram to commit an act of violence against anyone from the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, except for those very specific Sharia countenanced exceptions. So for example, shut up or I'll beat you up, man. That's a major sin. You can't say that. You literally you cannot say that. I'm gonna punch you in the face. You can't say that. I mean, if it's a joke between friends and it's understood that it's a joke, then maybe it's not haram. But like, why take that chance? Maybe you think it's funny, the other guy doesn't think it's funny. Maybe they actually feel afraid of for when you say stuff like that. So don't joke around about those things. This is part of the polishing, the finishing of your iman, is that you don't joke about these things. We don't consider it permissible to rebel against our imams or those in charge of our temporal affairs, our worldly affairs, meaning the government. Here the imam doesn't mean like Maulana Nabil, right? Here what's meant is the sovereign government that rules over the Muslims. This is not talking about here, although many of the precepts may or may not apply here, but this is talking about those people who live in the Muslim world under a government of Muslims. So we don't consider it permissible to rebel against our imams and against those in charge of our temporary affairs, even if they're tyrannical. Even if they're tyrannical. And people are like, oh my God, what do you, we'll unpack much of it afterward. I just don't want to waste time because we have so little time, so we'll start the discussion and we'll finish it after Asr. This is a really important discussion. I get a lot of questions about like, oh Shaykh, the Muslim countries have such tyrannical governments and like, what are we supposed to do? So you have one group of people who are like, no, you have to obey the rulers and lick the boot no matter what they say. And see, it says in al-Tahawi. Well, it kind of doesn't, but you know, you are getting paid like, mashallah, $500,000 a year to claim that in front of people, and you know more Arabic than the average person. So, you know, there's a reason they're paying you. So that's one extreme. You got to lick the boot no matter what. And then the other extreme is like what? Like ISIS. They're all kafirs, and whoever pays taxes to them are all kafirs also, and everyone's a kafir, so they just kill everybody who doesn't like agree with anything we say. We'll burn their masjids down. We'll shoot them in the masjid. We'll kill them all, you know, until they join my specific group. We'll kill them all. Right? So these are two extremes. Anyone who has half a brain can understand how A, this is not how the Prophet ﷺ operated. B, this is not a viable way for any human society to operate. And so what is the Aqidah of Islam tell us about how to navigate these situations when you have tyrannical and horrible governments, which unfortunately the Muslim world does. And so what is he saying? He's saying that rebellion is, we don't rebel against the leaders, even if they're tyrannical. Rebellion means what? Pick up a gun and start shooting people. Okay? Rebellion doesn't mean that you don't speak out. In fact, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, to speak the haqq, is an obligation on the ummah, even in those situations. But the idea is this, is that look, Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he summarized it by saying that 100 years of tyranny is better than 1 hour of chaos. Why? Because in an hour of complete chaos, people die. In an hour of complete chaos, houses are destroyed, businesses are destroyed, roads, infrastructure is destroyed. You know, how long does it take an average person to pay off a house? Well, most mortgages are what, 30 years? Right? When you kill someone's father, and you're like, alhamdulillah, it was worth it because we got rid of the tyrannical government. And that person's like, I want my father back. Where's my father? I'm going to grow up as an orphan now. You cannot replace those things. So the idea of chaos, you know, 100 years of tyranny, people still, life goes on. They have to have patience. There's some difficulty in it, but life goes on. The amount of damage that happens in just chaos and riot, it's something that's a damage that's irreparable and irreplaceable. That's part of the discussion. The discussion will continue, inshallah. We'll